Welcome everybody once again to a Safe Place podcast, and today I'm going to talk to you about obsessive compulsive disorder. Yet again, I'm going to take away the D because it's not actually a disorder. We've got to separate things that cause suffering and associating suffering to be some sort of a disorder when it's not. It's a lovely human mechanism there to try and keep us alive and safe. So, what is OCD? Now, everyone watching at home has their own relationship with OCD. We obsessively, compulsively get up every morning for work. Why? Because there's an anxiety there. There's an emotion there called anxiety. And the consequences to not getting up for work each morning creates even more anxiety. I'm not going to be able to pay the bills. I'm not going to be able to put a roof over my head. I'm not going to be able to feed my children. So we obsessively, compulsively get up every morning to the sound of our alarm clock. That's something that nobody will tell you that's a type of obsessive compulsive behaviour, but it absolutely is. We're behaving in a way to alleviate a sense of anxiety or dread. Somebody that suffers with the classic symptoms of obsessive compulsive disorder, people that suffer with classical symptoms of OCD suffer with the idea of having to stay perfectly clean, to eliminate all germs from their body or any germ that could exist in their house. So they'll obsessively clean. What they're trying to do once again is alleviate a sense of fear or anxiety within themselves. Let's look at this and let's narrow obsessive compulsive disorder down to one singular thing. It's our inability to feel a sense of fear. That is what unites all sufferers of OCD, whether it's moving ornaments around and having everything look perfect, whether it's removing germs from ourselves or our home environment, or whether it's getting up for work, working really hard for a boss, because we obsessively compulse with our anxiety that if I do not perform, I will lose my job. And what does losing your job mean? It means all of your fears are brought to the surface, the consequences. So everybody on this planet obsessively compulses. And we've given it a diagnosis, we've given it a name, OCD, not being able to feel their emotions. Now let's look at a classical example of something that we don't take as OCD, but it is. Let's say that you take your daughter or son to the park and it's just you and your son or daughter, and the park is busy. There are lots of other parents there and lots of kids playing around. So you take a seat and tell me what you do when you take that seat. Where do you put your awareness in that park? Your awareness goes on what you're afraid of. You're afraid of either having your daughter or son go missing or your daughter and son being taken. What happens is a feeling spikes up within you, a feeling of anxiety, and we put our awareness on what we're anxious about. So you watch your daughter or son playing and you do not take your eyes off them. That is no different to OCD. It's an inability to feel the anxiety. And notice how the OCD there is absolutely what's needed to protect your child. Let's look at areas of your life where OCD isn't about protecting a child, but it's about protecting you with the germs, with perfection, with going to work, with negative thoughts. We put our awareness on what we're uncomfortable with as a way of trying to avoid feeling the discomfort. Ultimately, deep down, OCD is our reaction and distaste and suffering that comes with not wanting to feel fear. So all of those different situations are a reflection of our inability to feel fear. One could argue then that OCD is a very human behaviour. And to label it once again as a mental health issue is completely wrong. Let's focus now that an OCD sufferer is putting their awareness on doing the things that will stop us feeling the fear. Now, we've lost a deep connection with understanding what fear is. Fear is there to keep us alive. Fear is a part of you that is activated and takes control of you when you perceive danger, when your very state of survival has become jeopardized. And what's really uncomfortable about fear is we feel like we've lost control when we feel fear. Now, what we've got to try and do is gain more awareness of fear so we can build a deep relationship with it. Realising that your fear isn't an enemy that you need to cut and remove from yourself, but it's actually something that you want to build a relationship with once again and incorporate into the self. If you can begin to understand that fear, your greatest protector, since when you took your first breath, has always been within you. And you cannot run away from fear. OCD is a desperate attempt to run away from what we're afraid of. An emotion. A part of us. We're trying to escape a part of ourselves because we perceive through the suffering that fear evokes that it's harmful. And we need to change completely our perspective of fear to the point when I feel afraid, I can go in and surrender to the idea that there's a survival instinct within me now that's took control. And that's the scary thing. I feel out of control. I feel insane with my OCD. It's your inability to feel it that creates that sense of lack of control. And I want you to play around with the words that you use inside of your mind. You're not losing control. It's just another part of you has decided to take control to try and lead you back to a state of comfort. And then we get stuck. And it gets more difficult because we're trying to escape the feeling. So the feeling climbs and escalates. And the more it escalates, the more the obsessive, worrying, negative thoughts protrude on our psyche and our awareness. And we're trying to escape. We're perceiving danger. And as a result of that, once again, the anxiety is going to climb even further. You're trying to escape yourself. You have lost a beautiful, deep connection with what fear is and how important fear is to you in your life, to everyone that you have ever loved. So we need to feel our fear. Embrace our fear, accept our fear, and surrender to it. Not in a way where you surrender because you've lost control, but in a way now where you know that you can allow fear to take control, because fear is you. It's a part of you. So one of the ways to do this is we have to start very gently, because absolutely we don't want to feel fear. When a lion burst into the savannah thousands of years ago, our body's survival mechanism called fear took over, made us feel that uncomfortable. It gave us the energy to want to run away from what scares us. That works perfectly well. Thank you, fear. I'm going to be grateful to my fear. I can send gratitude to my fear. But what about if you're at home and there's no lion there? I argue there is a lion there. And that lion is fear. Your inability to escape something that is within you. Your misperception that that something called fear is an enemy to be run away from, when it's actually your greatest friend that you need to walk towards with gratitude, understanding and awareness. So that's a little video now on OCD, and hopefully it begins to change your perspective, not only on how OCD isn't a mental health condition and that everybody suffers with it and that it's absolutely normal, but you've got to incorporate a part of yourself that you so badly wanted to get away from. You cleaning the house and cleaning yourself from germs was a desperate attempt for you not to feel the feeling of fear. And your desperate attempt to never want to feel it will only ever create the same suffering and the same behaviours to try and not feel it. Your fear of not being perfect. You being a perfectionist and trying to organise your whole life and organise the environment that you're in to be exactly the way you want it is a fear of the feeling of not being perfect. But ultimately, it's the feeling and the resistance and the lack of understanding when it comes to feeling fear. That is what unites us all in many different mental health concepts. It's our inability to feel ourselves with the acceptance that it deserves, with the respect, with the gratitude, and even developing that sense of love that a part of you has took over you at the moment in time to best navigate you to a place of no suffering. As soon as you understand that and do the gentle work with closing your eyes and spending time just beginning to feel the fear without using the behaviours to escape it, and flooding your psyche with phrases of, this is a part of me. I am sorry that I have tried to cut you away from me. Now I understand that all you've ever done is try to protect me. I am not suffering with a mental health condition. I respect my fear. I can allow fear to take the captain's chair. I can sit back as the witness and watch as I have been triggered in the fight or flight response, and fear, my greatest ally, has took control of the ship, and it's directed me to a place that it perceives to be safe. So begin to gently feel the fear and send thoughts of gratitude towards it, because you won't be here without it. So it's time to love our OCD, and more importantly, it's time to learn to love it, and that is your transcendence through OCD. Thank you, everybody.